Hi lovelies! Summer has arrived and with it comes a bounty of beautiful berries that I just can't get enough of. And that's why today I am sharing my recipe for these absolutely delicious summer berry crisps that are just bursting with berry flavor. I think you guys are going to love. The best part is these are super simple to make, and once you've got the recipe down, I think you'll be whipping them up all summer long. Now, of course, any berry delicious dessert like this starts with a bevy of beautiful berries. And this time of year, they are out in abundance, at least where I live, so I'm so excited. In my bowl, I'm gonna start with some strawberries. To that, I've got some blueberries headed in here, some blackberries, and some raspberries for good measure. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you don't have fresh berries available where you are, frozen berries will work just as well in this recipe. If you are opting for frozen though, I definitely recommend using them while they're still frozen as opposed to letting them thaw first because they tend to get a little mushy when they thaw. So you wanna make sure they're nice and solid. So now that my lovely berries are in my bowl, I'm gonna go ahead and add some sweetness to this. So I've got a little bit of granulated sugar headed in here. I also want to add a little bit of flour to this, which may seem unusual, but flour is important because it's going to turn all of the liquid from our berries into a nice syrupy, almost jammy consistency. And that is absolutely what we want. Once all of that goodness is in my bowl, the last step is just going to be adding a nice squeeze of lemon juice to this. Now you could do this with orange juice or even some water if you want to. You just want to add a little bit of extra moisture to help your berries get really, really syrupy during the cooking process. I'm just going to stir this up until it's well combined, and then I'm going to transfer it into my ramekins. Now, I really love serving these up in individual portions, which is why I'm using ramekins today. But if you don't have ramekins, not a problem. You can also just pour all of this goodness into a baking dish and then cover it with the crisp topping and bake it in the very same way. Absolutely up to you. Now, these are just oven-proof ramekins. You can find them at almost any kitchen store or buy them online. I'll link them in the description box below. It is really important to grease them liberally because of course this is gonna become really sugary and syrupy and it loves to stick. So do yourself a favor if you want cleanup to be extra simple and make sure you grease these with either some butter, some coconut oil, or a little bit of neutral flavorless oil like a canola, for example. So I'm just going to use a spoon and transfer this mixture into each of my ramekins. And you don't want to be shy. You really want to load the mixture up because it's going to sort of shrink down during the cooking process. Now you might also notice that I opted to line my baking sheet with some parchment paper, and that's because if you have any of this sort of overflow over the sides of the ramekin, you do not want to be cleaning it off your pan later because it's very, very sticky and it won't be so easy to clean. So do yourself a favor, a little bit of parchment paper or some aluminum foil is fine, just something to protect your pan and make sure that cleanup doesn't become a total nightmare. You're welcome. Once you've got your ramekins loaded with all of that berry tastiness, you can set this aside and we'll get to work on our crisp topping, which again is really simple to prepare. I get asked sometimes what the difference between a crisp and a crumble is, and typically the difference is oats. So a crisp is made up of oats and a crumble is traditionally just made of flour. Now today I'm using some quick oats for this recipe, but you could use good old-fashioned rolled oats if you wanted to. And to my oats, I am going to add a little bit of flour. This is going to help give it a really nice texture. Next, for some sweetness, I've got some brown sugar headed in here. And I've also got some melted butter. And we're just gonna give this all a quick mix, and it's really that simple. That's what our topping is going to be made up of. And as it bakes in the oven, it's just gonna get this really lovely texture. What is not to like? I just wanna make sure it's well combined, that sugar is super well incorporated. And it's time to top these babies. I like doing that with my hands. I just grab a handful of my crisp topping and place it all over top of my berries. You can go ahead and be really liberal here because you do want to have a nice crunchy topping on these. All right, that's it. We're just gonna get these beauties into the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit until they're bubbly and gooey and nice and crispy on top. Okay guys, seriously, check these out. They are the most bubbly beauties, and I have never been so excited to dig in. Of course, you're going to want to let these cool for at least a few minutes before diving in with a spoon, because as you can see, that is hot, hot, hot. But tell me that that is not a summer dessert of champions. You can serve them just as they are or doll them up with a little bit of whipped cream or some ice cream for good measure. And honestly, guys, this is one of those summer desserts that everyone is going to feel good about and want over and over again. It's like a little bit of summer in every bite. Seriously, so very good. Don't believe me? Give them a try for yourselves. And if you do, be sure to tweet me, Instagram me, or Facebook me a photo, because you know how much I love seeing your kitchen creations. This recipe is linked in the description box below, so you can find all of the measurements and details there. And finally, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, because there is lots more deliciousness where this came from.